let's get real for a second. We're gonna talk about gossip. You know, that thing we all do but kind of feel guilty about afterwards? Well, today we're throwing the judgment out the window. We're gonna get into the actual science of why we are just so obsessed with talking about other people. And let's kick things off with a scene that I'm betting sounds very familiar.
Okay, picture this. Be honest. You're at work, you're finally in the zone, just crushing it. And then your coworker leans over and whispers those magic words. What happens? Come on, you know the feeling. Your focus? Gone. Your ears practically twitch, and some deep, ancient part of your brain just screams, yes, tell me, what happened to Sarah?
Yeah, we've all heard this one, haven't we? It's basically the official quote for making you feel bad about gossip. It's that little voice in your head that whispers, you're being small-minded right now. We're taught that it's, a bit tacky to talk about people. And that's exactly why we get that little pang of guilt right after we've had a really juicy conversation. But here's where we flip the script. What if? What if it's not a bad habit at all? What if it's something wired deep inside of us, a biological need? Seriously. What if I told you that the urge to know what's up with Sarah from HR is actually the modern version of an ancient survival instinct, the very thing that for thousands of years held human society together? So let's completely reframe how we think about this. We're gonna take a trip way back in time, because it turns out talking about other people wasn't just a fun pastime. Nope, it was a critical tool, a tool for survival. And it all comes down to this really cool idea called vocal grooming. And to get what vocal grooming is, we first have to look at, our monkey relatives. You know how you see primates picking bugs off each other? They spend a huge amount of their day doing that. But here's the thing, it's not really about being clean. It's how they build trust. It's how they form alliances. It's basically the monkey version of saying, hey, I got your back.
Okay, now I want you to burn this number into your brain. 150, 150. This number. This is the whole reason we had to find a new way to bond, a reason we had to move past picking bugs. It's the magic number in human evolution. So what's so special about it? Well, this is what's known as Dunbar's number. An anthropologist named Robin Dunbar figured out that based on the size of our brains, we can only really maintain about 150 meaningful relationships at a time. That's kind of our maximum tribe size. And you can see the problem, right? As our little human groups started getting bigger and bigger, heading towards that 150 mark, picking bugs off every single person just wasn't gonna cut it. You'd run out of time. We needed an upgrade.
And that upgrade was language, or more specifically, gossip. It became our vocal grooming. Think about it. Instead of bonding with one person at a time, picking nits out of their hair, you could now sit with a whole group of people around the fire and bond with all of them at once. You're sharing important social info, like, hey, just so you know, Og's being kind of stingy with the mammoth meat. It was way, way more efficient, a total game changer for building community. Okay, so that's the why from an evolutionary standpoint. But what's actually going on inside our heads in the moment? Why does it feel so good to share a secret? Well, it turns out there's a potent chemical cocktail at play that makes it pretty much irresistible. First on the list is oxytocin. You've probably heard of this one, right? The bonding hormone or the cuddle chemical. When you lean in and whisper, you are not gonna believe this, both your brain and the brain of the person you're talking to get a little hit of it. It's like a chemical handshake that says, we're on the same team now, we're in the circle of trust. It's that instant feeling of closeness. But then there's the really big one, dopamine, the reward chemical. Get this, the part of your brain that lights up when you eat amazing food or even win some money is the exact same part that lights up when you hear a really juicy piece of gossip. And the more shocking it is, the bigger the dopamine rush. Your brain is literally giving you a treat for getting the latest social scoop, because back in the day, that information was power. And this leads us to, a slightly darker corner of the human psyche. The Germans have a perfect word for it, of course, Schadenfreude. You know what I'm talking about. It's that little secret flicker of pleasure you feel when you hear something bad happen to someone else, especially someone you might be a little jealous of. It feels wrong, but why does it happen? Well, brain scans actually show us what's going on. When we hear about a rival's failure, a part of our brain's pleasure center called the ventral striatum just lights up. It's all tied to this idea of social comparison. See, we are constantly, whether we realize it or not, ranking ourselves against everybody else. So when someone we see as ahead of us takes a fall, our own brain tricks us into feeling like we've moved up a notch. It's a quick, dirty little boost to our self-esteem. But okay, it's not all about brain chemistry and ego. Gossip has a super practical job too. In fact, it's one of the most powerful ways we learn the unwritten rules of society. It's basically learning without having to make the mistakes ourselves.
Here's how it works. The smart, logical part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, hears a story and runs a little simulation. So when you hear, "Did you hear Bob got fired for stealing office supplies?" Your brain isn't just soaking up the drama. It's taking a note. Okay, rule number 1 in this place, stealing equals getting fired. You learn the rules of the tribe without having to be the one who gets kicked out. It's super efficient. So if gossip is this amazing, natural, useful thing, then why is it so often, well, toxic? The problem is that our ancient software is running on modern hardware. An instinct designed for a small, tight-knit tribe of 150 people can go haywire and become a weapon in a modern office of thousands, or online with millions. And this is where we need to draw a really bright line. There's a huge difference between sharing information and what we call malicious gossip. And it all boils down to one word: intent. Is the goal to bond, to warn people, or is the goal just to hurt someone's reputation, to knock them down a peg so you feel a little taller? That's when it crosses a line.
Now, obviously, the damage to the person being gossiped about is huge. Anxiety, loneliness, a ruined reputation. It's awful. But what we don't talk about enough is the damage it does to the person doing the gossiping. Think about it. If you're always talking trash, you're literally rewiring your own brain to look for the worst in people. You start to see the world as a hostile, untrustworthy place, and that leads to this deep, gnawing paranoia. Because you know if you're doing it to them, they're probably doing it too. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. These ancient instincts are playing out all around us. That whispering at the office when a new person gets hired, that's the tribe checking out a potential threat. That aunt who says, "Oh, I'm just so concerned about her choices." That's a classic power play, aggression dressed up as altruism. And celebrity gossip, that's just our brains pretending these super high-status people are in our tribe, so we feel like we know what's going on at the top.
Okay, so if this is all so hardwired, are we just stuck? Are we doomed to be toxic? No, not at all. That's what our big, modern brains are for, to override those ancient instincts when they're not helping. We can actually learn to use this powerful tool for good. We can learn how to gossip. Butter.
First up, a simple tool that's been around forever because it works. It's called the Socrates filter. Before you open your mouth to share something, just ask yourself 3 quick questions. 1, is it true? Like, do you know for a fact or did you just hear it? 2, is it good? Is this a positive story? And 3, is it useful? Is anyone actually going to benefit from hearing this? Honestly, most of the nasty stuff fails at least 2, if not all. All right, step 2 requires you to be really honest with yourself. Just take a second and ask, why do I really want to tell this story? Am I trying to genuinely connect with this person? Or am I maybe feeling a little insecure, a little jealous? A lot of the time, when you can put a name to that feeling, like, oh, I'm not angry, I'm just envious, the urge to say something nasty just kind of melts away. So what about when someone else tries to drag you into it? You don't have to get into a big argument. Just use what's called the pivot technique. It's super simple. When someone says something negative, like, wow, John's presentation was a total disaster, you first validate them a little. Yeah, public speaking is so hard. Then you immediately pivot. You can change the subject to something totally neutral, like, speaking of work, are you ready for that big meeting? It's a smooth way of saying, I'm not going there, without making things weird.
Now, this next one is my absolute favorite. I want you to try reverse gossip. It's exactly what it sounds like, saying good things about people when they're not around. Seriously, make it a habit. Say something like, you know, Sarah is so on top of things, she's a lifesaver. You still get that oxytocin bonding hit, but you're building people up instead of tearing them down. It creates trust, not fear. And believe me, it always finds its way back to.
Okay, but what about that one person we all know, the one who only wants to talk trash? For them, you might need to set a soft boundary. The trick is to use I statements. Don't say, you're so negative, because that's just an attack. Instead, try something like, you know, I'm really trying to cut down on talking about people. It kind of makes me feel anxious afterward. See, it's about you and your feelings, not about them being a bad person. Much easier for them to hear. I love this analogy because it just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? Gossip really is like fire. When it's controlled, it's amazing. It can bring people together, keep them warm, and light up the rules of the group. But if you let it run wild, it will burn everything to the ground. So look, the big takeaway here isn't to stop talking about people. That's never gonna happen. We're wired to do it. It's who we are. But we can be more mindful. We can be conscious about it. We can choose what kind of stories we put out into the world.
So I'll just leave you with this. The next time you hear that whisper, the next time you get that text with a juicy secret, you're at a crossroads. Are you going to tell a story that tears things down, or are you going to tell one that builds them up? The choice, as always, is yours.